Hello, everybody, and welcome. We finally got football to talk about. What a day. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to, like I said, have football to talk about. Broncos camp. Today was the first day fans were allowed in. Um, some downsides. We had Brandon Jones, unfortunately, tweak a hamstring. Sounds like that's getting an MRI tomorrow. That's uh, extremely concerning. With Justin Simmons still out there, maybe that opens the door for a return. I think I'll circle back to that later, though. um, I want to start off talking about this. Let's talk about training camp. Let's talk about what I saw, who I thought looked good, who I thought looked maybe a little less impressive. uh and I'll start with, I guess, the headline that everyone is obviously most curious about, which is the quarterback position. Um, and saying this is someone who is not a fan of the Bo Nix pick, you can see my reaction on our draft live stream if you want to go back and look at it. Um, I really liked what we saw today. Carter in the chat. Carter was out there with me. Carter was awesome, by the way. I don't know his handle off the top of my head. Carter, if you want to leave it in the chat, I'll throw it up on the screen. Um, uh, and nearly threw a pick. Quick gobbling on it. Yeah. He almost threw a pick. I'll actually address this really quick. Shane Savage, shut up with the Bo Nix garbage. I was there and saw with my own eyes. Nix struggling with accuracy and nearly threw a pick. Quick gobbling on Nix. Jesus. Here's what I'd go with. He was by far the most accurate quarterback out there. Like by far. It was not even debatable. I also don't think he had lapses in accuracy, really. There is the near interception you're talking about. If you were there and watching it with your own eyes, I think it's pretty clear that Reese Taylor, I don't even know if I'm pretty sure I'm getting that name right, wasn't familiar with that Bronco. Reese Taylor made an awesome play. He completely it looked like a cat going after a laser pointer, completely leapt backwards through the air, fully extended, and barely got two hands on it, but did get two hands on it. Unsurprisingly, he couldn't corral it for an interception. And I think that door was left open by Bo Nix leaving a little off, or being a little short on the throw. I think that's a totally valid critique. I think that interception, near interception, has way more to do with an outstanding read and athletic play by the defender than like an awful inaccurate pass by the quarterback. And if you were there with your own eyes and you saw that and that's still your conclusion, I question your ability to evaluate football. Straight up. Also, were you watching Zack Wilson go like 3 of 10? Like, I mean, I can count the Zack Wilson completions I saw on a single hand. And most of those were sacks. Most of those came 5 seconds after the snap, with two defenders running behind him. In joint practices against the Packers, that's going to be a sack. I don't know what to tell you, man. Yes, if and we saw this frankly at BYU, right? If you put Zack Wilson in a scenario where pass rush doesn't exist, all right. And I don't even think that was great. I would describe Zack Wilson's camp performance as like, I need to preface this before I say it because I don't want people to go crazy. The worst, I think the biggest problem, the best quarterback I've seen at Broncos camp, my time covering the team, is Russell Wilson, which, not a super high bar, but that's the best one I've seen. And I think, in spite of that, the big problem he had in camp was he would scramble a ton. He'd hold the ball for a long time and then he'd scramble. And what I was just saying about the pass rush, you're not going to, have contact on anyone really, but especially not the quarterback. You're going to be allowed to scramble as much as you want, or hold the ball really for as long as you want. You try and pretend like the pass rush is real and stay on time. And I think, and this is my biggest critique of Nix for today too. I think he defaulted to the scramble a little too much. Wilson, I think, was worse than Nix was today. But anyways, Zack Wilson or Russell Wilson, that was his the worst part of what I would see from him in camp. Zack Wilson was that dialed up to a million, and then take away Russell Wilson's accuracy and downgrade the decision making tenfold. It was, I don't like I think he might have had the, I don't even know if I'd say it was the most impressive play of the day because it was a sack, but he gets sacked. Again, you're not going to tackle the quarterback to the ground, but he gets sacked. He rolls left. He's a right-handed quarterback, so he's rolling left, off platform. I don't know if he even had a foot on the ground. It might have been a jump pass, but at the very least, off platform, throws a dot to the sideline, to the left sideline. Small window, again, off platform throw, on the run, awkward throw for a right-handed quarterback, really either handed quarterback to make. Awesome. It was a really nice throw. Again, it would have been a sack. Justin Adams from CBS, former CU Buffs player who was standing right next to me, also said it would have been an interception in a live game. And I think that was the high point of Zack Wilson's practice. I don't know how you come away with that happy with him. But anyways, I want to interact with the chat here some. Cody Daly on the Bo Nix thing, same, but he is growing on me. Having a Ducks fan in the family, he is gaslighting me. I like that. Yeah. You know what? I think we could all use it. It's hope season. Why not? Oh, here we go. I told Carter I'd get this up on the screen. Please follow Carter Dillon 14. He helped me a ton today. Catching some things, pointing out, different when players were in different personnel packages. My reporting today on my training camp thread would not have been as good without Carter. And Carter was dropping his own takes on his Twitter, plenty of which were items I didn't catch. And I think all of them were insightful. I retweeted a good number, but yeah, check that out. Carter Dillon 14. I promise, worthwhile follow. D Bronx in the chat. Zach, Bo Nix question: does he actually look bigger in person? Not to me. I don't know. I feel like that was maybe overhyped. I also think the arm strength, I don't think he alleviated like any arm strength concerns either. I don't want to get, like too negative with it, because again, my overall impression was pretty positive. But yeah, to answer this, I wouldn't say he looks bigger to me. He looks like a quarterback. I don't know. 6'5", I guess, is, and especially from where I am up on top of the berm, I don't know if that's necessarily. I wasn't up close to him, so maybe if I got up close to him, it'd be like, whoa, this guy's crazy, because 6'5" is pretty big. But I feel like, Russell Wilson, is around 6 foot, but that's kind of the outlier. Like, I think Drew Lock's 6'3" or so, I want to say. So I don't know, 2 inches on that is not, I think, from the eye test 50 feet away, gonna look super different. The wheels I thought were serviceable. That was something, I said I think he leaned a little too much on the scrambling at points of today's practice, which is kind of just like you're easily going to get away with that in this setting. I think you should try and lean on it as little as possible. But the upside of that is I do think, he showed some athleticism. It's, not Lamar Jackson, but I think he can be a functional runner at the next level. It's better than like a Drew Lock. I would say, honestly, it's pretty comparable to like what version of Russell Wilson the Broncos were getting. Definitely not that like level of like nimbleness. He's not going to be doing like the circles in the backfield. But I think, I can give like Russell Wilson on some of those read option plays. I kind of think that's what my expectation would be there. Mike Naylor in here agreeing with me on Zack Wilson. Zack Wilson's toast. Zack folds under pressure. His film proves. Russ always left the pocket. Also true. Carter agreeing with me on Zack Wilson. Wilson was bad. Any observations on Mims' role so far? Is he going to be involved as a wide receiver and not just run go routes? Absolutely, Kodiak. He's going to be heavily involved. I think he's going to be probably, I don't know how the targets will shake out. Just because of the role he'll play in the attack, I think he might be lower down the list in terms of targets. But I think he's going to, in terms of snap count, probably have the second most snaps, barring injury. The Court's definitely going to be number one, especially with the contract situation getting sorted out. I guess we haven't talked about that on the show yet. We can dive into that more Monday. Nothing really to talk about there. They just gave him, some extra money, make him happy, get him to camp. It works out for everyone, in my opinion. It's not going to really hurt the Broncos. Anyways, Mims, I think, is going to be the Z. He was running with, the Cortland Suttons and the Josh Reynolds out there when they, for example. Got to be careful. There are certain things I remember I'm not allowed to report. I think that's it on Mims. I didn't see a ton from him. I will say this too. Despite him probably getting an uptick in his receiver role, I don't think we're necessarily going to see a downgrade in his returner role. He was one of the 3 or 4 players that was back there to return punts during those periods. Michael Bandy was one of the others. Philip Dorsett was one of the others, and Tremont Smith was one of the. I think that was the 4. I could be forgetting one. I put the entire list, in my training camp thread over on Twitter. I am operating off of memory right now. Wilson prob had more sacks than Nix and Stidham combined today. I would fully agree with that, and I would say probably more incompletions than the 2 of them combined as well. Again, I think Nix had lapses in accuracy. Stidham definitely had lapses in accuracy. But I just, I could see maybe coming away from that practice and not thinking Nix was the best quarterback. I don't know what Wilson did that was positive, frankly, even. Not to even be I don't know. I think Nix did some very impressive things. I feel like I should start getting into the stock up, stock down. I'll keep catching up on comments. I'll circle back to that in a second. DNVR was so down on Bo, and some said Wilson was the best of the 3 up on the hill versus on the field. And I will say, I credit to the DNVR guys. Had Hank on the show a few times before, Henry Chisholm. I really trust his eye. That said, I would love to talk with them, and because genuinely I'm curious as to what they saw about Nix that was so concerning, and what they saw from Wilson that they were, I guess, so intrigued by. Just because, again, from my vantage point, and the great thing about this is all subjective. Especially camp practice. This isn't all 22, where we get to rewind it and break plays down. That you get one look at it. It's not even in the stadium where you get instant replay. You get one look at it and you take it in. So it is somewhat subjective. That said, I don't know how many positive Zack Wilson plays I even saw. Like, again, he had the one really nice throw. He had another one to Dulcich on the sideline. That one wouldn't have been a sack. That was just a nice pass. Credit where that was his probably positive play of the day. He had the one I described earlier, but again, that's a sack at least in my book. And again, Justin Adams thought it would have been an interception if the cornerback was willing to play through some contact, which in this setting he's not going to. So I don't know. I was not impressed with Zack Wilson at all today. I thought his accuracy was the worst of the three. I thought his ability to work within the offense was the worst of the three. His timing was the worst of the three. I thought it was, again, everything you didn't like about Russell Wilson's game with none of the good. And I can't imagine Sean Payton enjoying that. That would be my review there. On Zack Wilson, I guess. I guess I don't know, man. I'm going. We haven't done one of these yet, so we're just shooting from the hip here on it. If Bo or are Bo and City, wait, what? If Bo and City are close and City has been in system for the year, then Bo should be the guy. Yeah, sorry. Mike Naylor here. If Bo and Stidham are close and Stidham has been in system for a year, then Bo should be the guy or be our guy. And I would agree totally. I think there was, and I've been beating this drum on the show that I think it's okay, to sit Nix for a few weeks. I think there's value in letting your quarterback see the process. I wouldn't sit him for the whole season. I don't think he's out. He played 61 collegiate games or started 61 collegiate games, for crying out loud. But if you want to give him a week or two on the bench, I'm not going to sweat that. That said, after what I saw at camp today, and it was one day of camp, I thought there was a pretty big gap between him. I think I graded it. I initially graded it as like B-, C-, D-, and I got a Twitter question from someone, I forget who, and they were like, was the gap between Nix and Stidham larger, or the gap between Stidham and Wilson larger? And to me, I thought the gap between Nix and Stidham was larger. Stidham, to me, was consistently firing underneath today. One of the only downfield shots I saw him take, he had Cortland Sutton wide open on a crossing route. And I mean, wide open, like college wide open. I mean, unbelievably wide open, and thrown so far behind him, Sutton barely got a hand on it. Incomplete. But Sutton was barely even able to touch the thing. So I thought he was pretty unimpressive. It was a lot of, in my opinion, like just checkdowns and whatever. Yeah, it was uninspiring to me, I guess, would be the word I would describe Stidham's performance as. I don't know what Wilson's best moment was better than Stidham's best moment today. I just think like Wilson has 7 moments worse than Stidham's worst moment as well. So that's why I'd put Stidham ahead of him. Do I believe in Nix after a few practices? Again, it's only been one for me. Excuse me. Only been one for me. And I mean, I don't know. I don't want to. It's a single training camp practice. I believe he definitely deserves a shot. I think there's a good chance it could work out. I think let's just start getting into this. Bo Nix here. I think he checked all the boxes you'd expect him to check, but I think that's good, right? If you look at his scouting profile, like what are the pros of like the sales pitch? It's going to be timing, it's going to be accuracy, it's going to be the level of experience he has, the ability he'll have in terms of just picking up the offense, all that stuff. And I think all that translated. I thought he did the best job progressing through his reads, honestly. Granted, some of that might have been, not to say that Stidham couldn't, maybe he was just too willing to take the check down. But Nix, and again, this stuff's hard to judge live, but you could see him working the field more, in my opinion, than I saw either Wilson or Stidham doing. I think his delivery is very fluid and just like smooth. Carter said it today, that the ball just kind of comes out different from Nix's hand. Or off his hand different. And I fully agree. Like, yes, Wilson has the strongest arm of the group. I don't think there's a doubt. I think there's a pretty decent chance Stidham is second in terms of just like raw arm strength. If you wanted to like pull out a speedometer on it or see like who could throw the furthest, I wouldn't be surprised if Nix was third in that competition. It's not a problem, at least from what I saw. Like I didn't have any arm strength concerns. Point being, it's not a velocity thing, but it does come out. It's a really pretty ball, might be the best way to describe it. He throws the prettiest ball of the bunch, I think. I think Zack Wilson can make the most impressive plays, at least at this point. But I think Bo was throwing the prettiest ball. I think he had the best. I don't know about the best, but definitely better than Zack Wilson in terms of like his footwork, just drop back. His mechanics were locked in, looked really strong to me. And then the thing that I saw from him that I was most happy with, and it's interesting that people are griping about the accuracy. The thing I saw that I thought was most impressive was like his accuracy, specifically the touch he was putting on some of these passes. I saw him 2-3 times hit, I believe, like David Sills. It's weird because David Sills is 87 and such a tight end number to me. But he hit David Sills on a couple crossing routes. One was in tighter coverage. One had like a corner trailing. But both he had to lob it over, one defender, I think a linebacker on both cases, lob it over a linebacker and, drop it in front of the safety. And like, I don't think Drew Lock was ever doing that, frankly. Also Russell Wilson struggled to operate in the middle of the field. So I think you could say he at least wasn't doing that reliably. That was something that I think I think throwing with touch consistently, or at least like having that in your bag, it is not super easy to develop. Someone like Colin Kaepernick always comes to mind for me. It is someone that struggled to develop touch, like had unreal arm talent in terms of like velocity and throwing the ball far, but struggled to like have some of the different clubs in his bag. He looks like a quarterback. Geez, calm down, Zach. And you know what? I get this, but look at what we've had in Denver. I think Bo Nix just honestly, like he came in, he looked like an NFL quarterback. He looked ready to go, ready made, which again was the sales pitch on him. I think that's pretty promising. And I didn't see how I would describe his performance today. I guess I've been kind of bouncing around. He lived up to all the positive ends of his scouting profile. And I don't think he necessarily eliminated any of the concerns. Like I didn't see him zip a ball into a tight window where I was like, whoa, the arm strength's there. Yes, he did overthrow Troy Franklin. That was his least accurate throw of the day. It was a deep ball. And he sailed it by like 5 yards. To me, that's not what arm strength is really about. I think most NFL quarterbacks can like deliver the ball to most places they would have to, you're not going to throw the ball more than, 45 yards through the air, rarely ever. And I'd say 28, or just off the top of my head, probably 28 starting quarterbacks could do that. It's not necessarily about, can you throw ball far, right? It's about, velocity, because that opens things up for you. Like, can you hit that deep out to the opposite hash? Like that's what arm strength is about. A tight window throw, defenders are closing in. Do you have the velocity to thread that needle before that window closes? If you think about like a Western or like a classic, chase scene, like, do you have the zip to get there before like the train comes over the tracks and closes that window? That's what arm strength is about. And in a 70% speed, 80% speed practice, I don't think, again, unless you call it deep out or something like that, and Nix decides to show it off, I don't think you're necessarily going to see the RPMs. But again, the arm strength didn't look limited to me. I do think he was short on that one play, which opened up the door for a pretty great near interception from Reese Taylor. But I don't think that was he didn't have the arm strength for it. I think that was a bad pass. He didn't put enough on it, rather than he was maxed out and he just couldn't get it there, Carter, I want to circle back to that because I haven't even gotten through my list. I've just been talking quarterbacks. After seeing the big three, can you speak as to why Denver pursued each quarterback? That's interesting. I think Sean Payton wants Stidham because Stidham's the Teddy type. I think would be. I'll use Denver quarterback comps because I think that'll be helpful. Denver is the Teddy type. I think he of the group. He's the veteran. I don't think he's very exciting. I don't think he's very aggressive. At least from what we saw last year, and then I think that rang true in practice today. But he understands the offense. He he understands the offense. You trust him to make some good decisions and be accurate with the football. Although I think he can miss really bad sometimes. That's where I was hesitating. I was like, I don't know how accurate he is. And I don't think he's as good as Teddy. But that's where I think he is. That's what Payton wants. People's critique of Payton with the whole Russ thing was like, oh, he just wants a guy that'll like run his offense. That's what Stidham is. Not a great, not. And he's bounced around the league as a backup. He's one of the top 50 quarterbacks in the league, but probably not one of the top 25. And I think Payton just likes the idea he can execute the offense. Zack Wilson, I think, was this will be a fun swing for if the quarterbacks we like are gone by our draft pick, we want to have a guy in our back pocket now. So after the draft, the Jets aren't, drumming up the price on us. And if we don't end up with that quarterback, Zack Wilson is like a fairly fun reclamation project. He's got a lot of physical gifts. He was the second overall pick. And Sean Payton's a good offensive coach, a good quarterback coach, at least in theory. Can he be the one that fixes Zack Wilson? I think that's that one. Bo Nix, I think, and he doesn't have Zack Wilson's tools, but I think is the kind of blend of those ideas. Like let's dial up what you're getting from Stidham a bit, or a good bit. Again, I think I feel pretty good about what I saw today. But that same idea, he can execute the offense well. I think what I would be hoping for from Bo Nix, I want to look at Sean Payton quarterbacks, I don't think you go Drew Brees. I think, but like a much nicer version of Teddy Bridgewater is realistic. And then we'll see how much athletic potential is really there. That's a mystery I am frankly curious about. I want to see, because the Auburn stuff looks like there might be a good bit more there. I think the ceiling might be higher than it's made out to be because of what we see when he's at Auburn. But I need to see more of it. Jalen Virgil, I would say is probably in trouble making the roster. That said, he was getting work on special teams as a gunner, so maybe he can make the roster that way. But I think he's probably, this isn't a hard number, but he's probably like wide receiver, 8 or 9 on the list. If you're just looking at the wide receiver stuff, if we're removing special teams from the conversation, and they'll probably keep 5 or 6. So it'll be rough for him. A lot of people were loving Dulcich today too. Any insight? This is from Cody. I should be saying the names. Kodiak NFL. A lot of people were loving Dulcich today too. Any insight would be huge if he can stay healthy. I agree. I don't know. For me, it's hard to bank on him playing 17 games, if I'm being honest. Now, I also wouldn't bank on it being like last year where he played 30 snaps. I think that's probably the other extreme, right? I think it's fair to have concerns about Dulcich. I think he's going to play a handful of games this year, and I think he's going to be the Broncos' best receiving tight end by a very wide margin whenever he does. He was running with like Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims and Josh Reynolds today. I didn't see where Hireman was, or not Hireman. A little bit of a Freudian slip there. I didn't see where God, what's his name? God, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. Troutman. I didn't see where Troutman was for Light of Towers and keyed in on that. But Dulcich was running with you know, Sutton and all them. And he had a couple nice grabs. The aforementioned one from Wilson, which I think was Wilson's best pass of the day. And then shoot, he had another. He had another good one. So yeah, it's just nice to see him out there running. And I remember last year it was so frustrating because like he came back and then the practice he came back for, I'm pretty sure he tweaked his hamstring. And like again, this is a small win, but hey, let's celebrate the wins we got. And he's made it through, you know, the first handful of practices here, looking good, performing well, and staying healthy. You know, so fingers crossed on that front. That would be a huge, honestly, if you get 17 games from Dulcich, that's a tremendous boon for the Denver Broncos. Because I just think Troutman was a pretty limited receiver last year. Mims involved heavy sounds good, says slightly above average. I'm with you. Some of these I don't know what, you know, they're necessarily about, nonsense and whatever. It's a bit. Okay, I hear Abrams' drain is doing okay. I could be wrong. I think he had some fine moments. I saw him get, God, who did he get burned by? It's in my thread. I'm sorry, I'm working off of memory here, people. But he got beat bad on one rep today. But you know, he's a rookie corner. Like he's a lot in training camp. If he was pitching a shutout and never getting beat, that would be insane. So you know, I don't have a strong take on KAD or, you know, Abrams drain either way right now. Main thing they said about Bo was he didn't have a completion over 10 yards. Maybe in 7s and 11. I don't even know if that's true because I think both times I saw him layer the pass in 7s, that was like 15. I mean, maybe it was like right at, I would say it was probably further than 10 though. I would disagree. Again, we see this stuff once. There's no replay on it. You know, maybe I was way off on how. I don't know. I think it was past the linebackers. I think it was in front of. Well, I know it was right in front of the safeties. So I think it was. In my opinion, I think he had multiple completions past 10 yards. Could be wrong on that. Absolutely possible. But I don't know. I'd be a bad analyst if I didn't stand on my analysis. If I just went there, looked at things with my own eyes, and I was like, I don't know. It's what other people said. So I'm standing on what I saw. I think he had multiple completions past 10 yards, and I thought he played well. Bo seemed really solid pre-snap today as well, Carter said. Fundamentals. Yeah, I'd say, again, it's basic, but he looked the part. He looked like an NFL quarterback today. And again, I have not been able to say that about every quarterback I've seen at Broncos camp. I don't know how often I could have said that about Drew Lock, for example. Mike Naylor, Bo can layer his throws. Fully agree. David talks Broncos. I can't wait for the first preseason game. I can't either. Or that joint practice. I want to see some faster speed stuff. Because that's my question with Bo Nix. Like, does he have that arm talent? And I think it's going to be hard to tell until the bullets really start firing. And preseason's not that, but it'll be closer to that. And so maybe we'll get a glimpse of some of the answers, if not an answer itself. Mike Naylor, good quarterbacks have to be able. Also, thank you, David, for saying Zach knows ball. David, I need to reach out to you. I've been meaning to talk to you. I'm sorry. The summer has been crazy. I feel terrible, my man. I need to reach out to you. I'm very sorry. Mike Naylor, good quarterbacks have to be able to layer the throws over and under. Agreed. And I think it's a very valuable skill. I think I saw that multiple times from Bo Nix today. And I think to break that out multiple times in one single practice, I think that's a club you have in your bag. Maybe I saw Bo Nix on a good day, having a good moment, and that's not a club he has in his bag regularly. I was very happy to see that. The Franklin ball was an overthrow, not an underthrow. I think that statement kind of somewhat explains Nix. His mistakes don't kill him. Also true. You do want him to miss long on that. It was a miss. But a lot of guys, like, I don't know, quarterbacks missed long on deep balls not that infrequently. It's not a high percentage play. That didn't concern me. That it was a miss. It was not close to the target. That was a bad throw from Nix. No denying it. Also would not be something that concerns me in the slightest. It is a training camp throw, at least 30 yards downfield. And he was long on it. I mean, okay. If you have to throw ball 70 yards on a play, you miss your read. I mean, I'd agree. I don't remember what that's to necessarily, but I would agree with that statement. Bo's great at limiting mistakes, something that doesn't get talked about enough, rarely takes sack or throws picks. Absolutely was in his game at Oregon. That'll help him get on the field here in Denver. Stidham can come in and help when the starter is out. That's the other thing. Like, if I were to, who do I trust to, like, dang, Bo Nix is out 4 games. Who do I think has given me or 3 games? Who do I think gives me a chance to, like, win one of those 3? The Stidham. Like, Zack Wilson's the dice roll. And, you know, there's some high end, you know, maybe positive outcomes, but I think the odds of those coming up are pretty unlikely. He's a scratcher, you know, and, like, the upside of that is really exciting. You can win $100,000 more often than not. You know, you're lucky to get your money back. David talks Broncos. Stiddy is our Chase Daniel. Good comp. I like it. I honestly think that's a pretty accurate comp. I don't know if he's as good as Chase Daniel, but in terms of at least play style, that, like, functional athleticism, for lack of a better word, you know, kind of game manager type, I think it's a fair comp. Zack Wilson was a let's see if we can fix him guy. This is from Mike Naylor. Zack Wilson was a let's see if we can fix him guy, and it's not going the way Sean had hoped. Bo's first season at Oregon was okay, but once he was comfortable in the offense, his last season at Oregon was ridiculous. 45 touchdowns to 3 interceptions and 6 touchdowns on the ground. Once Bo gets comfortable in the offense, he's going to take off. Man, I hope you're right. Don't we all hope he's right? The Broncos country has been too starved for, this has been I mean, it's crazy. From 2016 to, like, 2020, you had one of the most fun eras of offensive football. And then, like, over the last 3 years, it's kind of waned again. And now we're actually, like, we had 2 years of it waning. And now it seems like offensive production's coming back up. Like, multiple eras of offensive football, and the Broncos have been in the desert for the entire time. Just having functional quarterback play, I think, would be very nice. Interesting to see stock down on Garcia. Didn't know he had room to go down. Fair. He had a rough day today. Stood out to me. Nix threw it further than 10 yards multiple times. I'll go through the list. I'm just trying to catch up on the comments. Shout out to you guys for commenting so much. Nix threw it further than 10 yards multiple times. Carter, in 7s on 7s or 11 on 11s, do you think he had completions? I'm thinking of those crossing routes to Sills. I swear those were 7 on 7s, but maybe I'm losing my damn mind because there was coverage on him. I don't know. Carter, please tell me if I'm losing my damn mind here. I don't want to be lying to the people, but I'm telling you, I swear I saw him complete multiple passes. I totally forgot to text you back. It's my fault. Huh? I've been forgetting to reach out to you as well, David. Let's get in touch. And again, I'm sorry. Mike, Naylor again. I was saying trust your gut when it came to Wilson today. Thank you. Appreciate you, Mike. Thank you for sharing your opinions and giving us the information. Thank you all for supporting it, helping me on Twitter or here on YouTube. It means a lot to us. If you are enjoying it, if you appreciate any of the work I've done, the thing I would be most grateful for, like that would mean the most to me, if you can like the video. That would be so meaningful to me, truly. Really helps us out on YouTube. This is a dream that's very meaningful to me, very meaningful to Joey, very meaningful to Bree. If this is giving you, any level of entertainment, it would mean a lot to me. So thank you. anyways, David talks about, that's not right at you, Mike. It's more general to the audience. I'm sorry. That felt very targeted. David, I still kind of wish we used the late pick on Joe Milton just for the hell of it. I could see some Taysom Hill energy there. I don't know if he's, just an unreal talent. I don't know if, but yeah, like similar dart throw to Zack Wilson, in my opinion. Hail Mary specialist. Yeah. Why not? Why not? Throw it over the mountains. How DMVR saying Knicks had the worst day? LOL. I mean, different eyes. Again, I'll say it. That it's all subjective. I 7 on Carter here saying 7 on 7. He had at least 2 or 3 good completions, and 11. I'm pretty sure he had at least 2 as well. Okay, thank you, Carter. So that's what Carter and I saw. There are no replays. I want to stress it again. Happens once live. There's no replays. It's hard to necessarily I could be wrong. I'm sure they would say the same thing. It's hard to tell out there. I think Bo Nix had a good number of downfield completions. I think you saw him layering the ball over linebackers under safeties. One of those times he did go short on those throws, left it open to an interception. Though, again, I think that had more to do with the defender making a great play than Nix a bad throw. Nonetheless, it was a bad throw. But again, I didn't see him hit on any deep shots. That I would agree with. If we're saying 15 plus, 20 plus, I would agree with them. But to me, that was Stidham's game. Stidham to me was the dink and dunk guy. I didn't see Stidham to complete anything past 10 yards. He might have not completed anything past 5 yards. Stidham was real conservative today. Say that there. Mike, appreciate you shouting it out. Anyone on defense in particular who had a good day, who you didn't really expect? Jaquan McMillan. Some of that has to do with utilization, more than an incredible moment. Who had a good moment today on defense? Reese Taylor, had that amazing play. That stood out. Man, I'm trying to think. It's hard because there's just no contact right now. Did anyone make a great play in coverage? Thought PJ, PJ was good. Not a ton stood out on defense. I'll also be honest. I was pretty dialed in on the quarterbacks. So that could be a factor. But there wasn't one on defense that really stood out to me, admittedly. Hit the like button. Jacob, I need to circle back to your Luke Wattenberg point, and I will. Next time Peyton's on the podium, he needs to be asked what he's looking for in the backup quarterback. Is it more of a mentor or just the best quarterback? Honestly, that's a great question. I think it'll be hard to answer that now because he'd be like, well, Bo Nix isn't the starter. Or Bo Nix isn't, I don't know if he'd go as far as Bo Nix isn't guaranteed a roster spot. I wonder if he would be that stubborn. But once he's named the starter, I think that'd be a good time to ask. And I fully agree. I'll be there this coming Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Can't wait. Say hi. Can't comment on whether or not I'll be there Thursday. I'm just not sure. I will absolutely be there Friday and Saturday. So check me out. Say hi. Would love to go to everyone. Come say hi. Would love to say hi to y'all quick. I'm going to be dialed in on my thread, admittedly, or just trying to watch practice, but would love to say hi to y'all. Someone came up. I didn't get her name, so I am so sorry, but someone came up to Brie and I today saying they watched the show. It was incredibly friendly. Very nice to meet you. And thank you for coming to say hi. It was very flattering. David talks Broncos in the chat. Can you talk about Blake Watson and the running backs? Gladly. Blake Watson, I genuinely did not notice today. I did not notice him make a play of any sort. I didn't notice him do anything bad. When the running backs were in position drills, they were on the far field from where I was, and they were just running through tackle dummies. You know, they've got like the pad things, and you just kind of run through and you chop your feet through cones, and that's never nothing really eventful ever happens there. You know, you just run over the cones. No one ever really fumbles. You know, so I don't really dial in on that, admittedly. So that said, I walked away and I was like, I didn't notice Blake Watson today. I need to pay attention to him tomorrow. So tomorrow, I think I'm going to do a Twitter Spaces, and I'm going to have Blake is on IR. That would make sense. Thank you, R Mac, clearing up the confusion there. That would probably be why I didn't notice him. That's how you know I'm honest. I didn't just be like, Blake Watson, what a day. Anyways, running backs. Jaleel McLaughlin, I thought had the best day. I also think, again, let's acknowledge this time of year is built for him. We're removing contact. And what's his, question going to be with his light frame? How is he going to handle contact? So we're removing the contact from the equation. It's all about vision and making plays in space. Damn, what are his two biggest strengths? Like, he was awesome today. He looked great. The vision's there. The burst is there. I think it's going to be hard for Blake Watson to beat him out. Javonte does look more trimmed to me. I don't think I saw more burst. He had one long run today. And when he was running by the crowd, I wanted to be like, I intentionally did look. I was like, how's he running? And, he probably wasn't. Again, no one was running 100% speed today. So it's not to say he doesn't have another gear. But I didn't see it for myself today. What else we got here? Yeah, thank you, David. Appreciate you. Appreciate supporting the show. Again, super chats. Very generous of you, David. Thank you very much. Sounds good. Flying out from Southern California. Safe travels to you. I think you've tweeted out something about Watson. What, right? I don't think I did. Sure hope not. I don't think I saw a thing about it. But maybe I mixed his number up. I don't know. I cannot remember seeing him. Blake Watson isn't making this team. Isn't Blake Watson hurt? Kind of covered that. To be fair, it was hard to notice any of the running backs today. I think that's fair. P. Ryan might be safer than expected. We'll say that. Now, then again, that might be making the rookies earn their stripes. I saw all the rookie, which was true of last year too. It took a while for any of the rookies to get on the far field. They all started out on the close field. That's true this time around too. I didn't see any of the rookies on the far field, on the close field. I guess Bo Nix would be the only one getting over there as they rotate through, but he wasn't over there today. So with that in mind, right, Estime's on the close field. So P. Ryan's on the far field. So he might be safer than expected. Again, there are limits on what I can report. I think I can say what field they're on, and I'm going to trust you, listener. Cortland Sutton's on the far field. Garrett Bolles is on the far field. Patrick Surtain's on the far field. Who's on the close field? Honestly, that's kind of a clue to you. Should be. Off the top of my head, Elijah Garcia. Okay. So, Watson's got a tweaked leg muscle. He hurt his hammy, Menugas says. Shout out, did I miss your? I thought you asked the question. How is Franklin looking? God, I skipped over a couple of these because of the super chat. I'm sorry. Let me go through these really quick. Sorry, y'all. How is Franklin looking? The only time I saw him targeted today was when Nix missed him deep. So I wouldn't say good or bad. I think it was just kind of a middling day for him, a NA day for him. Does Jonas Griffith look good? Said David Talks Broncos. On the close field, but from what I saw, I thought he looked good. I thought he was moving well, which you love to see, considering he's coming back from injury. I'm excited to continue watching him, especially as things heat up towards preseason. David Sills. Yeah, David Sills was the favorite target of Bo Nix today, which I'll say, the one thing I didn't say about the Bo Nix thing I need to comment on. It's what we titled the video and everything. I think he crushed him today. Let's stop this quarterback competition. Bo Nix already had the inside track because of how much more is invested in him than Stidham and Wilson. Like the thumb was already on the scale for him to win this competition. But just watching him play, like Nix is the best of them. He is the best quarterback out there. So start giving him all the reps with Courtland Sutton, with Marvin Mims. You can dial in that chemistry. He can also, I think, have better opportunities to build his confidence. I think it's hard to build confidence as a quarterback. One of my big critiques of Nix today, I thought he relied a little too much on scrambling. Some of that was he's sitting back there for 2-3 seconds and no one's getting open downfield. And some of that is like the defense deserves credit for some of that. Some of that is like he's working with David Sills and company. And no disrespect to David Sills, but there's like a reason he's on the close field, and get him with a Courtland Sutton, even Michael Bandy, I don't know. That's my thing. I just think that's way more beneficial than making him earn it. What's that do? Like, are we really worried that Bo Nix is not like, what is the justification for that? The making him earn it? Is it to like teach him some sort of work ethic or whatever? If he needs to learn that, why did you draft him 12th overall? Right? If you drafted, I don't know. If you have questions about like, I don't know if he's driven to like compete and work hard. So we got to make him think he doesn't have the starting job. We got to make him earn it. Like what's it really for? And who's it fooling? If the argument is also like, you don't want to just anoint this kid, that's not going to, sit well with the locker room. No, what's not going to sit well with the locker room is them thinking you're wasting their time. These are professionals. They care about winning football games. They have eyes. They want the best chance at winning games, and the best quarterback gives them the best chance at winning games. It's not beneficial to the locker room to do this either. And also, if it means he has worse chemistry with your receivers, and as a result, you have worse offensive performances early on, or just worse, results at the final score going on, that's not beneficial to the locker room. I do not understand the justification for it, honestly. And that's my eyes. Again, I think if you were asked the NVR, clearly they would have a different opinion. And I think that's valid. In my opinion, they should call it. They should call it. It's time. Let's start getting the guy ready. He's the future. And maybe it's the short-term future. Hopefully it's the long-term future. But he is the Broncos' future right now. I don't know how long. But it ain't Wilson. It ain't Stidham. So let's find out how long it'll be with Nix. How long that future will be with Nix. Let me get through this. Williams, McLaughlin estimated maybe Pirine. I think this is, I assume, predicting the running backs that'll make the roster. I think that's right. I would say Pirine is not very likely to make it, in my opinion. I do think he's a chance. I think you're right on saying he's a maybe. I would bet against it, though. I think he's going to land up on the Bengals. That's my bet. I think it makes too much sense for all sides involved. They paid Watson $250K plus they want him. He might go special teams. They'll lose him on practice squad. Maybe. And I think they'd be okay with doing so. We'll see. I'd like to see 4 running backs kept on the 53. I'm not opposed to it. Yeah, I think you guys are all fair. Oh shoot, I didn't see your super chat come in, Mundungus. God, what a horrible host I am. I'll be shocked if they keep Watson unless he proves he's capable in the preseason games. Yeah, I agree. I do think it's hard for him to make it. Because, like, yes, they paid him a good bit of money, especially on the practice squad scale, but that's $250K, which isn't anything. Like, to free up that, 4th running back spot or whatever for him, you're cutting someone else. And so, like, let's forget about the value of the 4th running back versus a 9th offensive lineman or like whatever, and those debates. But also, like, there'll be financial implications there. And it might be that, you don't save much money by cutting Watson while you could save money by cutting someone else. Like in that case of Pirine, I think they save like 2-3 million by cutting Pirine. But I don't think, again, when we're talking about things on an NFL scale where $1 million is a vet minimum, I don't think the 250K is going to be that much of a needle mover for them. Although it is a good indicator of like who their favorites are, who's got an inside track. I would not put it as the end all be all. Let me grab a drink of water quick, y'all. All right. How is Patrick and Franklin looking? I commented on Franklin. He did not do a ton today, at least what I saw. Patrick looked good. He caught a few balls. Wasn't much that I think you could see his movement on great. A couple stop routes. That said, he caught the stop routes and flipped his hips, turned up field. Not in like a remarkable way or anything, but putting some torque on that knee or whatever, and it looked good. He made plays today. I don't think he was like a standout player, but he was there. He was moving well. To my eye, at least. I didn't see anything concerning with him, and it's probably good news. He's coming off of a couple devastating injuries. Also, thank you very much, Mike, for the super chat. It is very generous whenever anyone does that. I really want to thank you. It's very truly appreciated. David talks Broncos. Yeah, I think Watson could help in the passing game. Played wide receiver at Old Dominion before moving to Memphis. Henry said as much, that he was seeing some work at wide receiver. Or he implied as much, I guess is more accurate. I didn't see that today. He wasn't out there today. But it would make sense to me. Franklin had a bad drop on a comeback route thrown by Bo. Okay. Ooh. So rough on the connection there today. Shout out Carter for catching that. This is why you should follow Carter too. There's a lot going on that field, and I'm doing my best. I'm not catching all of it. Carter was catching a lot of the stuff I wasn't today. He was a great partner out there. I would follow him on Twitter. Again, that's Carter Dillon 14 on Twitter. I think this is Bo. Yes, but he has to prove it. Can't do that sitting on the sidelines. I think SP has a little man crush on Pirine. It's fair. I think I don't know how much of it's little man and just like Pirine's a very useful player, right? I think this is a common theme with Payton. He likes like the reliable veteran who's going to just like do their job. The old Belichickism. Both these guys are off the Parcells tree. Pirine's a guy who does his job. Not necessarily the most high level back, but he does his job. That's right. David Sills is the 12-year-old Lane Kiffin offered. Good pull, David talks Broncos. That is nuts. Nix needs all the reps he can get. Stidham isn't anything. Guy might not even be on this roster next year. Probably won't be, if we're being honest. So yeah, I'm getting the picture you're painting. I get it. Well, Jamarcus Russell, Paxton Lynch. I mean, if we're talking about Zack Wilson comps, I think it's right there. Goodness, I need to catch up on these super chats. Once Bo Nix, I don't know, I'm missing these guys. I'm sorry, y'all. I guess I'm just so up in the live chat, I'm so far behind. Once Bo Nix shows flashes of the potential, he should have been elevated. I'd agree, and the flashes of the potential are there. For me, it's almost like the floor is what I'm more worried about. And I think he's showing the floor. Again, one day of practice. If I was there other days of practice and he had an ugly day, I would maybe think differently about his floor. But like he looked the part. He looked like the guy with 61 collegiate starts. He looked like, quote unquote, the most pro-ready quarterback in the draft outside Caleb Williams or whatever the exact billing was. They shouldn't go on much longer, hopefully. Agreed. I promise I'll get to the stock up, stock down eventually. I need to catch up. Heard Mathis looks improved too. Yeah. I've heard even that it wasn't today, but I heard he was getting some run with the ones opposite Sertan. Again, I didn't see that today. I can't report on that, but that is something I heard. Quarterback 2 will be a huge question mark if Riley Moss's stock is down. Sad. I'm with you. Here, I'll get there very shortly, hopefully, eventually. Zach is just ignoring me because I'm on MHRT and not LTB. You know it, Mundungus. Speaking of, I got to reach out to you too. We might that Mario intro video you got is pretty remarkably good, my man, and we are trying to get our ducks in a row on that front. Little peek behind the curtain. David Talks Broncos with another super chat. Thank you, David, my man. Thank you. Appreciate the support. Considering our cap in future years, would you look to extend Bolles? I feel like he still has another contract of solid play left. I would. Let me think on how. I think my concern with Garrett Bolles would be way less about his play and far more about do you want him as like a foundational piece of like this next version of the Broncos? You know, because I think he's a very talented player, but I also think there's maybe some hiccups and like some headaches with him, and like he's not. I think he can be a bit abrasive at times, maybe like in the locker room would be maybe one way of putting it. I don't know. I know people that would probably. I know people more in the loop than me that are a big pushing back very strongly against the idea of re-signing Bolles for that reason. Now, based on the player, I think you absolutely do it. It's a very hard position to find. I think he's one of the better players in the league at it. I think he was a borderline all-pro last year. The tackle position ages fairly well. Yeah, you're trying to develop a young quarterback. It wouldn't be great to let your blindside tackle out the door. I would. And, you know, to the first part of your question, considering our cap in future years, the Broncos have a very, very healthy cap moving forward. So I would be all for it on that front. P. Ryan, Mike Naylor here. P. Ryan bailed us out in a few games last year. He did, man. He averaged over 2 yards per out run last year, which, in case you don't know, that's like Devontae Adams numbers. Like, it's just because, you know, whenever he was out there, he was running a little check down route, and that's what Russ was throwing. Again, Broncos highest rate of passes behind the line of scrimmage, lowest rate of quick passes. But they were the check down kings last year. Pirine got a lot of those. And so crazy yards per out run numbers. One of the craziest stats I've ever seen, honestly. Brian Coleman, I heard Nix wasn't that great today. Stidham is better than people think. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse there. I'd go back to earlier in the show. But, you know, I disagree with that opinion. Though I do think Stidham is better than people think. Green Mike, I wish P. Ryan had got more run last year, says David, because of his reliability, because of how he came through for the Broncos. I'm not against that. It's part of why I'd be more than happy to bring him back this year. Mike Mindungus Creevy coming in here. Forsyth was brought up as a potential starting center. Is Wattenberg going to get the start over Forsyth? You know what? Let's get. I need to get into stock up, stock down. Otherwise, I never will, because you guys are blowing up the comments. And shout out to you for that. And I will get back to the comments. Keep them coming. I will answer all the questions as I have been doing. But I got to address what I have up on the screen, because this is hour in. Have not talked about it outside of Bo Nix and Zack Wilson. Luke Wattenberg. Okay, talked about far field, close field. Okay. I'd say far field's where you want to be, man. And that's where Luke Wattenberg was today. And not only that, so the far field, there's 2 waves of players on each field. except for there's only 3 quarterbacks. It doesn't apply to all positions. But there's 2 waves of players on both fields. Like there's wide receivers rotating in on the far field, wide receivers rotating in on the close field. So not only was Wattenberg on the far field, I'm pretty sure Mustafa was as well. And then Forsyth was on the close field. And that really raised my eyebrows. I'll also say, so the big thing with Forsyth was they were talking about how much they loved him all offseason. And then their actions kind of backed up that they liked their in-house options. They really did so little at center. I think Wattenberg, I've always thought, they really like Forsyth, but I don't know if he really fits the identity they're building with this line, right? We've talked about it, how Cushenberry was a bit of an awkward fit because they've got all these big, powerful mauler types. And Cushenberry was a little more finesse. It didn't quite mesh. And Forsyth, I felt like kind of had some of those same concerns. It was a little funky to me. Wattenberg is a powerful human being. He would immediately be one of the largest, most powerful centers in the league. He aligns with the identity they're trying to build much, much more. And so seeing him, working alongside Quinn Miners and Ben Powers, right, is instructive to me. Michael Bandy. Okay. I might disagree with Henry on Bo Nix and what we've seen there. Henry Chisholm is right on Michael Bandy, folks. This guy might make the roster. My Lord. He was balling today. I think I saw Michael Bandy make a play more than anyone else today. And not that they were unreal plays, but like it's perfect that he was wearing 83 because he was like Wes Welker out there. Like it was just like every time I looked up, he was making a catch. Just unreal. How reliable, or not even reliable, but just like he was all over the place today. I thought he was moving pretty well. Good hands. I didn't see him like drop or anything. Was consistently getting separation, which is why he was getting so targeted so frequently. We had a question on our mailbag episode on Wednesday. Who is your dark horse for that like wide receiver 5 spot? And I think I said Brandon Johnson. Changing my answer. Michael Bandy. Michael Bandy's the answer. Zack Wilson, I feel I've discussed. If anyone wants to hear more on that, I could. I just, I'm more concerned about beating the dead horse. Elijah Garcia had a rough one today. Bo Nix got him on a cadence call. Credit to Bo Nix. He got him to flinch a couple times on on his cadence. And one time he got Garcia to jump hard, like kind of jump between the offensive linemen. Very obvious flag. Would have been a free 5 yards if, they were calling penalties. So that was nice. At least for Nix, not so great for Garcia. And then Garcia's also here because I think he had one of the more notable moments of the day. I was struggling to think of like obvious downs, or like, excuse me, I'm trying to do 3 and 3. I'm trying to think like who's the other like third stock down player that really stood out. And Garcia stood out because he got in a fight with Mustafa. After Mustafa like picked the man up and dropped him. Like it was a pretty hard pancake block. Garcia was not a fan of that. And they got into it. That with him jumping off sides were the 2 times I noticed Garcia today. That's going to be a stock down for you. Lastly, on at least the stock report front, Riley Moss. I gotta get one more because Carter, you said someone stood out to you, and I want to highlight your stock up suggestion. Josh Reynolds. Okay, I'll get there. Actually, if you could comment, because I didn't notice Josh Reynolds a ton today. Why, Carter, if you're still watching, why did Josh Reynolds stand out to you as a stock up player? And we'll circle back to that. Riley Moss, to me, so I was really disappointed because I saw Levi Wallace out there opposite Patrick Surtain primarily. And I think that's very disappointing. Now he's the safe option, excuse me. He's like the proven star or like veteran commodity. He's also at the tail end of his career and was not great last year for the Steelers. I think actually I'm pretty sure no corner allowed more receiving touchdowns in coverage last year than Levi Wallace. It's possible he's only like top 5. He was definitely at the top of the list. I'm pretty sure he was number 1, but you know, and he's a veteran. He'll be fine. I think it'd probably be like it's a Fabian Moreau type, you know. And the fact that Fabian Moreau started over Riley Moss all of last season was disappointing. But we could say, oh, it was the injury. Riley Moss was behind. Wait till next year. Okay, well, now it's next year. Now next year is this year. And not only am I seeing Levi Wallace in front of him, I'm hearing that Damari Mathis is getting snaps alongside or opposite Patrick Surtain. I'm not hearing that about Riley Moss. If those reports are out there, please send them my way. I haven't seen it, but I'm hearing it's happening for Riley Mathis. And then I'm going to tap myself on the back for this, or pat myself on the back for this one. Talked about maybe Jaquan McMillan playing some on the boundary. I think I'm pretty sure I saw him playing opposite Surtain some today. So that would put Moss 4th in the race. And they traded 2 third-round picks for this guy? Just really disappointing, frankly. So he's probably the biggest stock down of the day. I felt mean doing any 2-arrow downs. But I'll just leave it there. Josh Reynolds. Yeah, I'm curious if Carter commented on that. I'll grab it if you did. Carter, let me know. All right, catching up on comments. Carter says, buy the Wattenberg stock. I'm telling you guys. Oh, did this just come in? Jordan Love, 4 years, $220 million. I'll comment on quarterback contracts really quick because it's something I've researched a lot with Rust and whatnot and just looked into. That Tua contract is going to look ugly. I'm telling you right now, come back here if I'm wrong, but we'll be sitting here in 2026 and we'll be like, I don't know if you want to be committed to Tua like that. I don't think we're going to have those concerns with Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love is the truth. It annoys me, but I think Green Bay's done it again, folks. He is, man, maybe he just got wildly red hot. Oh, sorry, Mike. Mike's got it with the super chat. I got to get out of here, Jacob. Mike reporting. I think he was first on. I think he's breaking the news to the world, frankly. I think beat Schefter and Ian Rappaport to it. Mike with the super chat. Jordan Love gets 4 years, $220 million. Yeah, I mean, 55 per. I think that probably looks like a deal when it's all said and done. If I was the Packers, I would have wanted to sign it. I take that back. I was going to say I would have wanted to sign him long term, but that's a little too much of a gamble because you are extrapolating off of like just 10 amazing games, 8 amazing games, whatever it was. Okay. Let me see here. A full set of picks this next offseason, and we'll have more cap room next year. Yep. Excited. I think the rebuild this year, I think will be like the Bo Nix good year. And then next year, I think is like you're a competitive team in the sense that like maybe you're competing for a wild card spot. 2026, I think this team could be challenging for the division crown. 2026, I think this division will be really fun between the Broncos, Chargers, and Chiefs. Hopefully I'm right. Let me see. Mike, why not draft an offensive tackle in the first round next year? There's some good ones next year. Left tackle out of Tennessee will go first. There's some great ones, and I would be totally game for it if the Broncos are high enough in the draft order that they feel very confident they can get one of those like more plug and play elite prospects, it's a lot easier to let Bolles walk. If you're not getting one of those primo blue chip prospects, I think you have to draft one next year anyways, but maybe then it's a franchise tag Bolles and you let that draft pick be your swing tackle for a year, learn for a year, and then in 2026 he's your new starter replacing Bolles. Yeah. David here talking about why it might be tough to re-sign Bolles because they're gonna the Broncos already have a lot of money tied up in the offensive line. And that's definitely true. I don't think they're in the position to move off Bolles. Like I think ideally they would be. This is why they should have been drafting tackles these last few years, or at least a tackle. They haven't drafted a single tackle since Bolles. And now I don't think they're in the position to just let him walk. Because you don't want to force yourself to sign a veteran replacement because the veteran tackle market is pretty poor. Bolles will be the best one out there by a wide margin. So if you're letting him walk, it does scare me. Mike says, I've heard Wattenberg has been playing well too. He's a violent blocker. Hard for me to comment on that element of it just because there's limited contact this time of year, you know, but I'm listening to what the staff is telling me, metaphorically speaking, you know, with their actions, what they're telling me. If Wattenberg truly is the strong option, definitely go with him. Yeah, I agree. His contract is about the same. Love only does have 1 year, but his stats over the second half of last year are absurd. And it's not just like watching it. Like he, what was the super silly Romo quote? Like that looked a little Mahomey to me. That's so silly. I think that applies more to Jordan Love than anyone else. And you know, I think Allen's the second best quarterback in the league. But just that like style of play and that like a level of athleticism and everything. I was really amazed by what we saw from Jordan Love. I would have no qualms taking that gamble. You know, and maybe it goes bad, but I would pay. I don't want to kick it down the road because I think it's far more likely I end up paying him $70 million a year that way. Payton takes Sanders in the third to move him to edge and Moss in the third to ride the bench. I genuinely think SpongeBob could do a better job at managing the draft than Payton did in 2022-23. The Sanders stuff is frustrating. It's hard for me. I don't know if we'll ever know, you know, because they did decide that he was going to be an inside linebacker this year, it seems. And then the Achilles thing happened. And I think that's going to really damage it. Hard to get a read on that one. Moss, I'm with you. That's really rough. I like the Mims pick. I think that looks like a hit. But yeah, Payton has not drafted well. Broncos in general, they need to find young talent as part of this rebuild. Their young talent core is poor right now, and hopefully that fixes some this year. Hopefully this year we see a lot of rookie impact. That would be a huge development for the Broncos. Even second year guys stepping up. Really, guys on rookie deals in general. Broncos need young core pieces to build around. Carter on why Josh Reynolds is a stock up for him. Solid hands, caught the ball when defended tight, very long. Nothing crazy, just going to be a solid player this season. I agree. Locked in as the starter. He did, but you paid me, so I'm going to say that you said it first, Mike. 75 mil signing bonus for Jordan Love too. Good Lord. That's not terrible. We'll have to see the final guarantees reported, but that's not bad at all. That'll be like a year and a half guaranteed. And then the contract's going to, well, we'll see. Maybe they escalate his cap hit this year. They could do that. But if they just have the cap hits starting when the contract starts in 2025, they'll really only be locked in for 2025. So we're not even talking about that bad a gamble, you know? I really like that signing. I get it. You're extrapolating off of just a small amount of play, but I think it's there. David Talks Bronco says, yup. Not sure to what. These contracts are getting so absurd that soon the only solution to actively field a real team of 22 starters will be drafting a new quarterback every 4 years, regardless of how good your previous one was. I actually disagree. Now, I do agree they're getting nuts. Oh, Kodiak, you opened up a can of worms because I nerd out about this topic, but they're as they get more expensive, they're also getting easier to manage because you can restructure them. It's the ones at the top end of the market are actually the ones that are easiest to manipulate. The Tua ones and the Goff ones, where maybe you have like an injury concern or like a ceiling concern or a how long do we want to be committed to this guy long-term concern. Those guys those contracts are hard to live with. Daniel Jones has a big like $40 million cap hit or whatever, and they can't restructure that because to restructure a contract, you have to commit to a player long-term. Patrick Mahomes, like, is making 55 or 45 mil a year. His cap hit is like 30 mil a year. Deshaun Watson has like the ridiculous cap hit, 56 mil a year or whatever. He hasn't had a year where his cap hit has been north of like 40 some because they just restructure it every year. And you can do that if you think you're going to be committed to a quarterback long-term, because by the time the bill comes due, the salary cap is going to be so expanded and the quarterback market is going to be expanded to the point that it's not going to be a problem. Those like painful years are going to be the status quo by the time you get to them. They'll look painful now, but by the time you actually get, by the time the bill comes due, it's like, okay, this is just 1 year of an expensive quarterback instead of the 8 we just had him play for us. If you look on our channel, in the live tab, there's a video with Trevor Lawrence in the thumbnail. I did a video breaking all this down really in depth, like hour plus, right after the Trevor Lawrence contract, talking about why Bo Nix cannot be a middling quarterback. With the analytic revolution, there's not going to be a middle class of quarterback contracts. It's going to be what Kodiak's describing, where you're drafting a quarterback to try and find a guy, or you have a guy you trust to restructure. Because if not, here's why. The rookie quarterback contract is a huge advantage because Broncos are paying Bo Nix like $8 million a year. And if he's a good starting quarterback, that's like $30 million annually in surplus value. Huge value. Now let's say like a Daniel Jones has a cap hit of 40 million, right? Let's just go with that. If you're restructuring a Patrick Mahomes to where his cap hit's already 35 million and the Giants can't restructure Daniel Jones because they don't want to commit to him long term, not only do the Chiefs have the dramatically better quarterback, they have $5 million to surround him with more talent. So it's Mahomes plus 5 million versus Daniel Jones. That's a one-sided battle, extremely. You cannot have a middling quarterback. The middle class is not of quarterbacking is not coming anytime soon. You need a top guy or you need a guy on a rookie deal. But yeah. Most impressive thing about what Love did was of the Patrick skill position guys, or most of the Packers skill position guys were rookies or second-year players too. Absolutely. And we're talking about a guy that struggled early on, was dynamite down the stretch. That aligns with, a lot of young talent developing, growing together. I'm not in Colorado. Zack Wilson not looking good in camp. No, I thought he was terrible. Some people disagree with me though. So, hey, teach their own. I thought he was really bad though. Mike, it's a big shell game. It is. The cap, if you have owners rich enough, and the Broncos have the richest owners in the league by a wide margin, the salary cap it's real, but it's very malleable. It's tinfoil. It's there, but it's, we're not talking about steel. You can bend it. You can play with it a lot. Okay, that's all of it. I finally caught up with everything. My throat's given out. I have been going way too long. My girlfriend's going to kill me for eating up an hour and a half of our Friday night. I need to get out of here. But appreciate y'all. Thank you for the support. Thank you everyone who left a super chat. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking the video. Again, any way to support our channel, check out the website, letstalkbroncos.com. It is an amazing way to show your support if you appreciate the work we're doing. Really does mean a lot to us. We just had a meeting last night until like 9:30. Joey Bree and I breaking down our plans for the 2024 season. We're so excited for what we have planned for y'all. Yeah, come along for the ride. Until next time, everybody, go Broncos. Stay tuned. I'll have a Twitter Spaces or something to break down